Hi, everyone, and welcome. It is time for another session of the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. You know me, it's JB in the cage. Taking his cuts today, Seattle Mariners broadcaster, Emmy Award winner, Dave Sims. Dave, how you doing?
Doing well, JB. Good to be with you.
We're really excited. I know Twitter's already fired up and good to go. Fans, you know how this works. Step in, toss some BP, see what Dave has to say in your questions and response. Multiple sports, which is also fun. You know we'll focus on some Mariners stuff. So let's get right to it. It's a big question on Twitter. A lot of questions about Mariners fans. This one, we'll let Lucas D. James on Twitter get the first crack. Dave, how do you see the Mariners starting rotation shaking out opening day?
Well, you know, right now, the hope was when we started it was going to be Felix, it was going to be Iwakuma, maybe Walker, Paxton, and Ramirez. It's up for grabs right now with Iwakuma probably not going to be back with us until mid to late April at best. Taijuan Walker about the same, coming off his shoulder issues. He threw well yesterday. Ramirez is going to throw this evening against Colorado. We'll see what happens there. And you got the veteran Randy Wolf and Scott Baker, a lefty and a righty. And let's see who pitches the best. And somebody out of that group is going to complete the rest of the rotation after Felix for at least the first month or so.
There you have it. Thoughts on the starting rotation for opening day from Dave Sims. We got fans ready to go. What's your name? Where you from? What's your question for Mr. Sims?
My name is Isaac Littlefield from Charlotte, Ohio. My question, who is your favorite player growing up, kid?
As a kid, growing up in Philadelphia, my favorite player was Willie Mays, followed very closely by Dick Allen, Richie Allen at the time, Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, Hank Aaron. I mean, I had a great crew in the National League growing up in a National League town. I get to see Mickey Mantle during the World Series. It seemed like they were in the World Series every year when I was a kid. So I have a lot of admiration for old number 7 as well.
That's quite a roster there as a kid's dream team. Not bad at all.
Oh, hey, man, getting to watch the National League and the American League and the All-Star game every year, we used to get a kick out of it because, frankly, the National League at the time had more black and Hispanic players, too. So, I'm coming from Philadelphia, and I'm looking at Mays leading off, Clemente, Aaron, on down the line. I mean, it was unbelievable.
No, that's fantastic. That's something we'd love to find out when we get inside the cage, get to know your favorite broadcasters, your favorite players, your favorite executives. Right now you get FaceTime with Dave Sims. I'm going back to Twitter. And let's follow up. So you were obviously a baseball fan, lots of heroes there. Spacer77 wants to know, what first interested you in the broadcasting part of sports?
When I realized that, I played baseball all the way through college, first year of college, but about sometime in high school, you realize, I was a pretty good player, and I played 4 years of varsity in high school and played on 2 outstanding American Legion teams. But I said, listen, the scouts aren't exactly knocking my door down, but I can still stay close to the game. Wanted to get into to print reporting and then broadcasting. Things worked out quite well. I did 7 years at the New York Daily News before getting into broadcasting, and then I started doing play-by-play about 1990 at Temple University during their football, and that led to ESPN and a whole other bunch of opportunities.
There it is. That's how the doors open for Dave Sims. Kids, follow what you love, at least especially if the scouts aren't knocking on the door. Just know which way you want to head. We got a fan knocking on the door right now.
Amen, brother. Amen.
fan fired up in the cage, ready to toss some BP. What's your name? Where you from? What's your question for Dave?
Hey, Dave. I'm Steve from Seattle. What do you think about the new catcher and base runner collision rule?
It's to preserve, keep guys from getting racked up like Buster Posey did. I'm old school. I prefer it the old way, but I understand why these new rules have been put in. And the games that I've seen to this point, every play at home plate has resulted in a runner getting down. The catcher giving the back end of the plate and the runner sliding in home. That we have not seen any collisions so far. I've been here coming up on a week.
This is the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. I am JB. That's Dave Sims. A fan steps into the cage, ready to toss some BP.
Dave, I know that you've called a lot of sports, and I was wondering what your favorite sport to call was and why.
You know what? And my standard issue, and I firmly believe this, it's like asking which one of my sons do I love more. I love them all. I'm living the dream. I get to call Major League Baseball, National Football League on the radio. I did college basketball on TV for a lot of years. I still do it on radio and doing Major League Baseball with the Mariners. Without getting super religious, living the dream, thank God. I love them all. I really do. And there's such excitement as you get ready for baseball. Next week I go to San Diego for the NCAA tournament. You can't beat that excitement. Every possession is worth its weight in gold. The NFL speaks for itself. So it's all good, man.
It is all good. And well answered, too. You really don't want Sophie's choice, any particular job, and go back and somebody's like, fine, we can take care of that. That's no problem.
Exactly
oh, you
right.
like them better? That's no problem. Another fan is in the cage. What's your name? Where you from? What's your question for Dave?
Hi, I'm Kevin Lane from Bainbridge Island, Washington. My question for you, Dave, is...
All right, Bainbridge.
One prospect. Yeah, Bainbridge. Can you name one prospect you think will have a major impact on the Major League roster this year?
On the Mariners roster, well, one guy, they just sent down James Jones. He's about a half a year to a year away. I think he's got a chance to be really good. Chris Taylor, the outstanding shortstop. He was a player of the year in the minor league in the system last year. I think those are two guys that we won't have to wait long to see. And I think Paxton, he's going to make the starting rotation. So I'd say he'd be the impact guy for right now.
This is the Edward Jones chatting cage. That is Bainbridge representing with the questions, getting Dave Sims to weigh in on prospects and what's most exciting for Major League roster. Twitter, again, we got plenty of questions coming in. I'm going to lean on you. I'm going to vary this one a little bit. Sam Trusty wants to know, who's the most exciting player you've ever seen play in person in any sport? And then I'm going to add, and who's the most exciting baseball player you've ever seen?
Well, during the years when I was at WNBC and then WFAN, I was the Nick host on radio. And I got to see Michael Jordan about 4 or 5 times a season. That was ridiculous. Ditto Willie Mays every time my dad and I would go down to see him. I grew up watching Wilt Chamberlain. And I'll never forget this. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I'll never forget my dad and his guys were all fired up. Hey, man, Jim Brown's coming to town. Eagles, Browns, Franklin Field coming in. And it was like Black Jesus was coming to town. And it was unbelievable. I mean, Jim Brown, the greatest football player, maybe the greatest athlete this country's ever produced, to see grown men acting like teeny boppers for Frank Sinatra, for the Beatles, or somebody, Justin Bieber. It was amazing as I look back. I mean, I was only 5, but that was a big deal going to games at Franklin Field and the Penn campus to watch Jim Brown, run up 120 yards every time he came into Philly.
That is a phenomenal story, and I'm fairly certain I know what our Edward Jones moment of the day is. I'm just saying right now. I might be able to break that one down. Bobby Citron wants to know, what is one aspect of your job as a play-by-play announcer that people probably don't know about?
I had a couple of guys about 3-4 years ago. A couple of bloggers came in. We sat down with them, had some laughs. And, wow, you get here this early? For a home game, I usually get to the ballpark 3:30. And I think that's something that, they were under the impression that, for 7:10 start and in Seattle, I was showing up at 5 o'clock. Can't do that. I mean, you got to come here, batting practice, work the cage, talk to the guys on your team, the other team. You got stats. You got to fill out your scorebook. I think that's something that people may not be fully aware of. And the other thing, too, is that you can get very obsessive with this stuff too, especially now. I mean, I got an iPhone, the iPad, I've got my laptop, I've got MLB Network, I got ESPN, back at home or at the hotel, so you can catch up on everything, and pretty much, obsess on whatever sport it is you want to follow. And in this case, obviously baseball. It's a lot of fun, and I try to mix in some other reading to try to, keep the mind fresh and everything. But that's probably a couple things.
That is great insight into the job, and true. I actually figured you showed up at 7 for a 7:10. That was just me. Before we say goodbye, though,
I hope it didn't sound like it.
This one is just for me. It's for all the young fans that might be watching. Obviously, you're a man who has great passion about sports. If there was one kernel of advice you could give to somebody that wanted to be Dave Sims down the road, what would it be?
Never give up. Never give up. One door closes, another one's going to open. Never, Jimmy Valvano said it best, never, ever give up.
All right. Well, I know you got lots to do. A big month with March Madness and spring trading underway. Dave, thanks for taking time out of your day to be in the cage.
JB, look forward to it, joining you again sometime, and all the best to you back in New York, man.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that wraps up another tremendous round of the Edward Jones Chatting Cage. We'll catch you next time.